Hello viewers and welcome back to an all-new episode of MLB 13 Road to the Show with our closing pitcher Gus Farmer. Last episode, Gus was able to make the 40-man roster to start out the spring, so currently he is trying to pitch his best in the spring training games that he's given the opportunity to pitch in, trying his best to impress the club so that he can possibly make it on the 25-man roster. So our first opportunity today is against the Cardinals. Shouldn't be too difficult. So while Gus is taking care of them, I just wanted to address something a viewer asked in the previous episode. The question was, why do I have so many training points? At the beginning of the episode, you might have been able to tell, but I have over 800 training points that I have not distributed yet. And my reasoning for that is partly strategy, partly preference. I found that, especially with closing pitchers, there'll be times when you just do not get a lot of save opportunities and you can't accumulate those training points that you need for the next round of advancement goals. So what I like to do is I like to accumulate all of my training points during the advancement goal period and not use them at all. Then once the advancement goal period comes to an end, I will see what my advancement goals are, distribute my points into them first, then whatever remaining points I have distributed into what I feel I need, which is most of the time control or velocity, especially for a young closing pitcher. And I will always leave an extra 200 training points at least to make sure if there is a time when I don't get a lot of closing opportunities, I have those 200 training point cushion to make sure that I don't run out of training points and can't meet my advancement goals. Now, the reason I do this is because there have been times in the past where I've played as closing pitchers and I just was not given the closing opportunities because the team that I was on was really quite bad, so they weren't winning very much, and when they were winning by an amount that didn't require a save. So I was getting maybe 1 or 2 closing opportunities every 2 weeks. Oftentimes 2 weeks is the advancement goal period, so I would get maybe 100 training points, and that would never ever be enough to be able to meet the goals. Right now, Gus, he's doing really well. He's getting opportunities to pitch. Right now, he gives up a base hit to David Ortiz because of the shift. Would have been an out if the third baseman was there, and even though probably shouldn't be on second, the left fielder makes a mistake, and so he's on second, but Gus shouldn't have too much of a problem, hopefully. But in terms of letting Gus's training points accumulate, that is pretty much just preference at this point. He doesn't necessarily need the training points to accumulate until the advancement goal period just because he is getting those opportunities. He's not saving, so he doesn't have to worry about how good the Mets are. Also, when he was on the AA Mets team, even though the team was not very good at all, he was still getting those save opportunities. So in terms of Gus, it's more just personal preference for me, but be careful, viewers, because if you are playing a closing pitcher, there will be times when you'll be on a team that just doesn't give you the opportunities that you need to be able to get the 400 or so training points that you need to be able to meet the advancement goals. So you really need to pick your training point distribution tactics wisely, especially because after 8 weeks or so, your skills, they will start to decrease, and you can't be worrying about making sure that your skills aren't decreasing when you barely have enough training points to put into the advancement goals. Also, this is not something I just do with closing pitchers. I also do it with position players and the starting pitchers as well. For starting pitchers, you don't necessarily need it, so it's more just personal preference for me, because if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, then you should have no problem getting enough training points in the training goal period. But position players, there can be times when maybe you're coming off the bench and you just don't get the training points, or there could also be times when you're just not hitting very well and you're unable to accumulate those training points, so leaving the 200 point cushion is really quite good. Also, just to interrupt myself, that was a 3-pitch outing, but back to what I was saying. So spring training is really quite good for the way I like to accumulate my training points, just because you can get a lot of training points during spring training. And then once spring training ends and we get our advancement goals, we will be able to put a lot of training points into the stats that have been neglected during the season when we don't have those training points. So this episode was definitely a lot of strategy talking, but next episode Gus will continue his spring. We will finish up the spring next episode, and we will see where we end up. Do we end up on AAA? Do we end up in the majors? Hopefully the majors, but we won't be able to save then, so maybe AAA would be better just to get the training points that we need and the experience that we need. So thank you for watching and have a good day.